Pharmacies all over the United States were affected by a cyber attack. And cyber attacks are coming at a much more rapid pace, specifically targeting our infrastructure. At this time, it was our pharmaceuticals. United Health was cyber attacked, which ultimately prevented most people that have United Health as their insurance from accessing their pharmaceuticals. Because not that the pharmaceuticals weren't available, it's that they couldn't access their insurance. So essentially something that might normally cost you $25 might be $2,500. As a matter of fact, when my youngest son was growing up, he had to take a shot daily that cost around $44,000 a month. But because of insurance, it was around $400 a month. So this is kind of what people are dealing with. Now, this is just going to be coming at a much, much more aggressive pace. China has promised it, Russia has promised it, Iran has promised it, and it's coming. And it's not going to stop coming. And when it comes to your pharmaceuticals, this is something you can't play around with. So I want to take a moment and just, again, remind you to be prepared. So how do you be prepared for your chronic meds? Well, Jace Medical is how you do it. Jace Medical was the very first company to come to the front of the need for medication as a prep. They came with emergency antibiotics and they added chronic meds. So for example, I take 4 pills a day and I have a year's supply of those just sitting around for emergency use only. So as my doctor prescribes me these medications, I then will use those as my daily dose, but then in case of an emergency, I have a year's supply just sitting there waiting. And this is incredibly important that you have this. All of us in this country either are on chronic meds or have a loved one that needs their chronic meds. All of us. And you can now access your chronic meds. Get a year's supply through Jace Medical. Don't play around. Because you probably weren't one of those people affected by the United Health hack. And if you were, you sat around and thought to yourself, well, how in the world am I going to get my meds and afford it? This way you have these sitting around. And so far, everything that I've purchased from Jace Medical is cheaper than it costs with insurance from the private sector. So you're not spending any more money on it. You're actually going to probably in the end spend less money on it. So chronic meds are a critical piece. It's prescribed by a doctor, a U.S. doctor, and then shipped to you from a U.S. pharmacy. Get a year's supply of your chronic meds because, you know, as we see our infrastructure continue to be attacked, you know, United Health just getting hacked is a small piece of it. You know, when transportation and shipping starts to get hacked, this is when you might go more than a week or so without your chronic meds. When, you know, our power gets hacked, when the electricity goes down, suddenly those chronic meds are literally impossible to get. Have a year's supply on hand. Also, as we saw with the last pandemic, there's a lot of medications that doctors aren't prescribing that are also available, like ivermectin. You can get that through Jace. Have that sitting on hand. It's a great opportunity, as well as have emergency antibiotics on hand. But, you know, generally speaking, this video is to your chronic meds because, you know, many people have antibiotics on hand, but your chronic meds, you have some, but you're going to run out. And then you refill that, and then you run out and you refill it. And this goes by about once a month. And if something happens to our infrastructure and you can't refill those chronic meds, you could be in a world of hurt and you could be in a life-threatening situation, or your loved ones be in a life-threatening situation. So it's incredibly important. Jace Medical provides what I believe to be by far the best prep you can make, is having emergency antibiotics and your chronic meds just sitting around waiting. I also travel with my antibiotics. My wife and I left the country for about 28 days in the summer. It was so comforting knowing that I had antibiotics on hand for almost any situation I could possibly run into. So Jace is below. Definitely check them out. We're going to put the link there. This is an incredibly important thing that hopefully this woke you up to, because this the first time I've talked about it. I've been talking about this for a couple years now. And if you haven't made that decision to make what I believe to be the best prep you could possibly make, having emergency antibiotics and your chronic meds just sitting around just in case of an emergency is incredibly important. Having things like ivermectin in case of another pandemic is incredibly important. These are things you could just, and again, it's prescribed by a U.S. doctor. So, you know, when you go to Jace, you're going to connect with a U.S. doctor, and they're going to give you a prescription, not a generic prescription that they give to everybody, but they're going to give you a prescription for your emergency antibiotics, if that's what you want, or your chronic meds, if that's what you want. And then they're going to be shipped from a U.S. pharmacy straight to your house. So, and then just have those on hand. They even put them in storage containers that are heat and cold proof, you know, this like thermal containers essentially. So you could just have those sitting around in case of an emergency, or in case your insurance company gets hacked and you can't access your pharmaceuticals. Because again, you know, my son, it was a daily shot. It was $44,000 a month if we didn't have insurance. But thank God for insurance. It was $400 a month. You know, if our insurance company would have been hacked in that moment, and they would have said, well, we could still provide your shot, but it's $44,000 a month now. We couldn't have done it, or I would have become a bank robber or something. So anyhow, there you go. Jace Medical, check them out. Don't delay on this most important prep you could possibly make as we watch our infrastructure continue to be attacked through hacking. Don't play around anymore. Have these on hand. When the day comes that suddenly you can't access your pharmaceuticals, or you're on vacation and you have an infection and you happen to have some antibiotics on hand, it's all going to pay off in that moment. So I'm going to put that link below. Again, get your emergency antibiotics, get your chronic meds. Don't play around. Have the best prep you could possibly make. Jace Medical, it's below. Any thoughts or insight, definitely put that below as well. Would like to take a moment and thank Victory Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram for sponsoring this channel, because they are not just a car dealership, but they have food pantries around this world. They build orphanages around this world. They take care of battered women around this world. They are walking the walk of Jesus Christ. So they're a natural fit for us. It's really a beautiful thing they're doing. I'm going to put their link below there. You can, once you get through their link, once you access their website, you will be able to buy a car if you want. But you can access their Giving Hope Fund and see all the different things they're engaged in, and help if you'd like. That link is below as well. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests. Never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.